Welcome everyone to the Autodesk BIM Collaborate Pro Collaboration Features webinar. I am David Campbell, Senior Application Specialist for Topcon Solutions. So I want to go ahead and just dive right in. Our agenda for today's presentation, we'll start with a little bit of about us, who we are as Topcon Solutions. We'll get into some common challenges that we see in our industry in terms of collaboration and the BIM workflows. We'll dive into an introduction into BIM Collaborate Pro, and then dive into some of the collaboration features that we do see with that. And of course, we'll leave some time at the end for a Q&A. Now, a little bit about us. As Topcon Solutions, we are the retail division to Topcon Positioning Systems. We are a complete solutions provider with complete office software solutions through our partnerships with Autodesk and Bluebeam, as well as offering the support and equipment for measuring and control hardware systems. We also have industry-leading training and technical support. We offer field troubleshooting, local service and repair, and some of the widest range of everyday field supplies and accessories. Now, Topcon Solutions by the numbers. We have 13 brick and mortar locations, and currently in 20 states, including Washington, D.C., with a little bit over 180 employees and growing. Now, again, my name is David Campbell. I'm the Senior Application Specialist with Topcon Solutions. And we are going to dive right into the challenges facing some BIM experts today. So we know that clash detection is often handled by one power user, which can typically cause bottlenecks in the model coordination process. And we find that unnecessary attention is given to low value manual work. Information silos and disconnected workflows can cause excessive time spent on manual processes and missed perspectives from the broader project team that reduces the overall quality of the handoff documents. So we're going to see here, of course, the disconnected workflows, some lack of project visibility, limited project team involvement, and usually that kind of comes with some time-consuming processes. So how do we overcome these challenges? Well, we'll start here. To start overcoming some of these challenges, we see a need for increased collaboration, the single source of truth, or that common data environment, the connection of our 2D and 3D experiences, so those 2D and 3D models, improving data accuracy, standardization, and digitization. Okay, so those are some of the ways that we start to overcome the challenges that we see. So BIM Collaborate, Autodesk BIM Collaborate, or ABC as I like to call it, and ABC Pro, empowers VDC managers to align on and execute design intent and constructability by managing the entire design collaboration and coordination workflow in a common data environment. So BIM Collaborate leverages advanced automation for clash detection, which is going to empower design and trade teams to self-check their work and improve the quality of construction documents, while also enabling our BIM and VDC lead to focus on the most important constructability issues. Now, inherent collaboration functionality from design to construction keeps the entire project team on the same page and collaborating effectively to reduce the number of design issues that reach the site. So what is BIM Collaborate, and what does it entail? What does it come with? So we're going to see that BIM Collaborate does include Autodesk Docs, which is going to give you your models, your drawings, issues, a place to host some of your specs, or those RFIs, the as-builts, your photos, videos. We're also going to see that it's going to give us the dashboards, reports, construction IQ with Insight, and then of course our much needed administration tools for user management and that project administration, that account administration and project administration. So BIM Collaborate. I want to jump into this just really quickly, and then I'll dive into the actual demonstration of it. But with document management, you're going to see your document control, document versioning, and document approvals. So what I'm showing here is everything that comes with BIM Collaborate. It's no longer separated out between docs, design, and model coordination. BIM Collaborate is going to give you all three. So again, with document management, that's where we have all of our control, our versioning, and some approval workflows. Design collaboration is where we're going to see the capabilities to perform our constructability reviews, and change the visualization. But it also entails this, I'm going to jump into this here in a little bit, with this publish and consume workflow. So controlling the data that is going and coming into our teams. And then finally, the model coordination, which of course we can utilize for constructability reviews, quality planning, and issue management. So I'm going to go ahead and dive right into, oh, wrong tab, there we go. Close these two down here. So as I said there with docs, everything kind of starts with docs, right? And in this case, with BIM Collaborate Pro and BIM Collaborate, everything again is kind of stored here. Now this gives us that common data environment to store, whether it's architectural, it's civil focused, it's coordination, it's MEP, our scans themselves, project images. We can store a lot of information here that is valuable for our whole project team. And the other portion of this that I wanted to kind of dive into is that I'm going to concentrate on a lot of the collaboration features within Autodesk BIM Collaborate and Collaborate Pro. So the big difference here, some of you may be asking, what is the difference between BIM Collaborate and BIM Collaborate Pro? Well, I can tell you that there is one difference, and that difference is being able to create and store your centralized models, your links, things like that within Autodesk Docs, okay? Now, Pro is the connection that we need to be able to send our models up, whether it's Revit or it's Civil 3D, okay? We're gonna use that desktop connector and store our files there. But essentially, this can also work with your Plant 3D, AutoCAD, your Advanced Steel, Recap. A lot of this is where you're going to see that capability to connect the data within your common data environment back to the authoring software, such as Civil 3D or Revit in this example. So that Pro connection gives you the capability to store these models, but we're going to go ahead and combine that back with something that we mentioned a little bit ago, and that's the versioning, right? Making sure that everybody is on that same version, everybody has access to the data that they need. That again is coming from this common data environment, right? So if we see my school Arch 2021 here, I know that this is version 14. It was actually published yesterday in the afternoon by me. So we can track this information and know as it changes. But the other part that's really important about that is, such as the example here in my Revit model, you'll notice that I have my MEP model and my structural model linked into my architectural, right? So this is a very important collaboration feature when we're looking at the tools or the power of Autodesk BIM Collaborate, in the sense of making our design decisions and knowing what's going on in our project at all times. Now, the interesting thing that I'm showing here is that if I go back to, actually, you know what, I'm going to go into my managed links just so I can show you guys what's going on a little bit here. So these links are being pulled from BIM 360 or from ACC, from Docs in this case. And when I get into Docs here, what you'll notice is that each of these models can be utilized, or these links essentially can be utilized as centralized models and as links. So as those models go through an update, as this version changes, we know that the information or the data that we're linking here into Revit is up to date, okay? So again, enabling that collaboration. Now, of course, we do have to talk a little bit about coordination as we're talking about collaboration, because we want to make sure that our models are aligned. They come in correctly in terms of lining up, right? We don't want to have to do any manual transformations in order to move these models around. So another thing, of course, is going to be establishing some of those coordinate systems or the positioning of your models as you get them into the cloud environment. And then, of course, making sure that that positioning is going to stay as you move forward, okay? Now, the other collaboration pieces that I really wanted to talk about, and I know I'm going to focus a little bit on Revit here, but we're also going to get into a little bit of the Civil 3D workflows, in a sense that when we go to actually push our information up, typically within Revit, we'll do what's called a synchronize, our central model. Now, that is not going to update our actual version on Autodesk Docs. It's actually where publishing comes into play. But The other part of publishing that I want to talk about is when we're actually publishing these views, such as this example in Revit. If I get into my publish settings, I can dive through my model and choose to publish views from 3D to 2D, sheets, sections, anything like that. I can choose to publish this information up to the cloud. Now, the big benefit of that being, let me click on the architectural model here. When I get into my viewer here, when I publish this up to the cloud, notice that we can see this model fully within our Autodesk viewer, okay? And you'll notice that this right now is the 3D view. But if I get into my sheets and views here, you'll notice those published views, those 2D or 3D views are here. So we can actually click through them and see what's going on. Now again, that is 2D or 3D. So if I get into my first floor furniture layout, there it is. I can find my other 3D views, my finished plan, whatever it may be. The interesting thing about this is it's enabling collaboration for all of your project partners. So if someone does not have access to Revit or to Civil 3D, AutoCAD, Plant 3D, but they still want to be involved in the process in terms of viewing these sheets, viewing these models and these 3D layouts, whether it's a client looking to give comments on, let's say, finishes or whatever it may be, we have this capability to bring everyone together into this common data environment and help them to visualize the project as it is or as it moves forward, making better design decisions sooner in the process. Now, you'll also notice as we're looking in this viewer, I'm seeing my architectural model, but I'm also seeing my MEP and my structure. So I'm going to go ahead and get back into the main view here so I can show you guys a little bit more of what's going on here. But essentially, anything that you link and publish in Revit, I'm going to go ahead and get into my model browser so I can hide my roofs. When we publish our links within Revit to the cloud, you'll notice that information actually carries through. So in this sense, I have a coordinated model with all three links brought together in one viewer. So again, I can start combining the collaboration of my different project teams to show them exactly what's going on in these models within the design application, but also within our Autodesk Docs environment here with our viewer. Now, the other portion that I wanted to talk about when we really start getting into enabling collaboration, a big part of that is going to be communication, right? Communication is a big piece, and we need that in our projects starting out as well into the handover process. So what tool here is going to help us enable communication between our different design teams? Well, that's going to be issues. So you'll notice that I have a few issues pre-created here. I have a couple right down here. If I click on this issue, we'll see that this is a design issue, that two sinks are being shown here. So I need to go ahead and adjust that to make sure that I do just have one sink there. Now you'll notice that we can even get down to specifying the location of this, the start date, and even what the root cause was. So this is a design deficiency. Now, the cool thing about this is that this communication does not stop here within the cloud, within Docs, right? So this issue has been made. What happens after that? Well, if I get back into Revit here, we'll notice that within Revit, we have an issues tab. If I click on that and go to my manage issues, this is where we can start connecting that data or those cloud workflows, whether it's design review or it's coordination review, what have you. We can start connecting this and communicating this back with the design program itself. So if I click on issue or issue number 43 here with design, it's actually going to take me right to what I see within Docs right here. So I see my two sinks being shown, the same details. It is a design deficiency. But notice that I can actually see this right within the model. It takes me right to where this issue is located. And then I would be able to go ahead, select that second sink, and then hit delete. And once that's happened, I would be able to go ahead, synchronize, publish that update So that model moving forward on the cloud has been updated. And of course, at this point, I could go ahead and answer this issue and close this out. So I would say this is pending, or it could be in review. If we know that it's been changed, it can be in review. We change that out, and now notice that the color has been changed. If I get back to docs here, and I probably need to give it a second to refresh, but after this is refreshed, that issue will be the same color and it will be notated the same as what we changed it to within the design application. So again, this is a big feature to go back to, enabling collaboration between your different teams. And that's whether it's within your model or a contractor or subcontractor, you know, the project partners models, okay? Again, enabling communication across that completely. So what other collaboration features do we have? Okay, I'm gonna dive into a little bit more of what Docs has to offer, and then we're gonna jump over to the design collaboration to kind of talk about that workflow as well. So the method that I've been kind of talking about up to this point, essentially by utilizing my school architecture here, my MEP and my structural model, is that I've actually linked all three models together through live linking, in the sense of these are centralized working models. I've linked them in. So again, as they change, as they update, I can see those changes as they're published to the cloud. Now, sometimes that workflow is not going to work with everyone, especially with these bigger Revit models that we're starting to see that are, you know, getting up to 2, 3, 4 gigabytes in size. That workflow doesn't work as well. So we're going to dive into how to enable collaboration with something like that here in a second. Now, the other, I want to say, forms of collaboration that we can start really using within Docs. One is going to be your reviews. So you can set up a review process within Docs to get your other project partners kind of enabled earlier in the process. So you'll notice here, I started a 60% review, and it's using a 2-step approval workflow. In this sense, I can go ahead and choose the models that I know I need my team or anyone else to go ahead and review and make sure that it is the way that they want it. You'll notice that I can go ahead and start this review. I would dive through into, into this model. I can place markups. It's going to know if I do have any markups in that model here. When I go into this review, it's going to let me know that you can assign a different number of reviewers for this task. So it doesn't have to just go to one person. But in saying that, if I go into my review here, it's going to jump right into this model. So I can go ahead, jump right in here. I can add the comments as you saw there on the previous page. This is where I can also place my markups. I can place other issues. There's that issue that we changed in Revit that has updated. So essentially, as going through this review process, we can enable our different design teams. And again, this doesn't have to be in the design application itself. It doesn't have to be in Revit or Civil 3D. We can do this right here from the HTML web browser. Now, once I've gotten all my markups and my different review kind of items done, I can go ahead and release this task, letting them know, or at least submitting this review and then releasing it, letting them know that I am done. And they can go ahead, someone else can go ahead and do their review of this model or of this document. So kind of further enabling the communication, not just for our modeling workflows, but also our quality control workflows, as well as our design review workflows. All right, now, the other one I wanted to briefly talk about, getting back to issues, is that with issues, they are essentially tracked for this project. You're going to see here, essentially, we just have one design issue kind of showing, but essentially this will keep track of all of the different design issues, and it's actually showing just one here because I think we do have a filter. Yeah, let me get rid of that filter there. And now I'll see a lot of the different issues that I've had going on throughout my project. This keeps a full report of those issues. Now you can, of course, export this. As I was showing there in the beginning, we can go ahead and set up filters due to categories, whether it's commissioning, coordination, design. And this really just helps us to figure out what issues belong to us, what we can address, and how we can address them moving forward. Now, again, export all is going to send it out either in a detailed report or a summary report, and that'll just kind of get all of those different issues that we have onto a document with the snapshot of the image itself that we can send out to our different project partners. So again, further enabling the communication there within our process. Now I'm going to jump over to the design collaboration module here really quick, because I want to be able to show the other workflow I was talking about just before I went into some of those other features. And that is going to be optimized by our design swim lanes here, or our timeline. And what you'll notice is every time that a model updates or someone is published, we'll see that it actually appears as a blip on our screen. So this one I actually shared this morning. If I click on that, you'll notice that I have a model and one set. And again, if I click into set one, I can actually explore and see what's in this different set. So see all the different views that I published up with it, what model and what documents come along with this. Now, this is the other workflow that we can utilize. As I was saying, with some of those bigger Revit models, they can be hard to live link into a centralized model. So a lot of times what I would recommend is that as teams are going through and pushing up the changes as they're publishing, a lot of your BIM managers or VDC managers can go ahead and get into these models to show some of these changes and make sure that this is valuable for their team to go ahead and what we call consume. When you consume, what's going to happen is it takes it into what's called a consumed folder. Now we'll be able to go ahead and visualize our different changes between this model here. So I can see there's quite a bit that's been added, some that's been removed and modified. So this would probably be a good idea for me to go ahead and bring in for my design teams. At this point, I would consume this model. Now, when I consume this model, the interesting thing about this workflow is that I'm pulling this model as it is. Whatever's being shown in this model, whatever documents are being published with it, or views, excuse me. Now, what I really want to say about that is realize that since you're not pulling the entire Revit model in, okay, you're not pulling the entire Revit model with all of the different links and all the different views and sheets into it, you're specifying exactly what you want your team to link into your model. And again, this just goes to show that we can control that flow of or stream of data a little bit more. It's like kind of like drinking from a, well, I want to say when they turn the fire hydrant on, or when they take one of those things, the parts off the fire hydrant and all the water kind of shoots out, right? If we can kind of essentially kind of take that down, put it through a hose, give us an easier way to kind of take that. That's kind of what we're doing here in a sense of now, since I've consumed that that model or that project there, that specific amount of data, I'm controlling what I want to go ahead and utilize or link into my model. So again, here I go right into the consumed folder, okay? And under the consumed folder, this is where those models are going to be located. So instead of, again, when I'm in Revit or Civil 3D or what have you, when I'm looking for those resources or those XREFs, right? I would essentially, instead of looking for the teams folder and looking for their live working models, I would be looking for a consumed folder within my team space and then essentially linking from there. So if I go to my structural folder, we'll see consumed here. I probably did it for my structural team. There's my school MEP. But again, what's really interesting about this, let me talk through this for a second here. The point that I needed to also kind of bring up here is when you're in the design teams here, I'm actually pulling for the architectural team at this time. So I know that when I go back to my architectural team, so I'm going to go back to docs here. This is where that model is going to be coming. So if I go to consumed, this is that MEP model that I just consumed. So there it is. Okay. Now, if I click on this, this is kind of, again, going to make that point or further that point a little bit. When I get into the sheets and views, notice I have my 3D electric, my 3D plumbing, and the default 3D view. I don't have all of the other, views that typically might be seen within this project. If I get into my 2D views, I have my M1 through my M4. So typically, knowing that this model inside of Revit is a lot larger, I'm controlling the amount of data, the amount of sheets, everything that everyone else from that project is not only taking in, okay, but also what they're consuming. All right, so that was another big point for those collaboration features. Now, the other one that I did want to dive into is going to be that model coordination, right? This is the other portion of BIM Collaborate Pro that you're going to have access to, and this is really where the automated clash detection and really enabling our different teams to collaborate and coordinate sooner within the process is going to happen. Now you'll see here I have my MEP coordination. The interesting thing about this is, and model coordination, is that you can set up several different coordination spaces, and you can even have coordination spaces set up within other coordination spaces. And what I'm meaning by this is you can give each team or each member of that project the capability to go ahead and coordinate their models internally before actually publishing them to the other project partners and running a project full coordination. In this sense, if I know that I wanted to, let's say, well, I could actually leave it in my MEP, I could do it in structural, any of my piping, things like that. But I'm going to take it over to my coordination space for a second. And here you'll notice that we have my school arch, my structure. I have some different views placed from the architectural model. The big thing that I wanted to talk about within these different models and kind of what we're showing here is that when you actually publish to these different folders, or you're publishing to BIM 360 and ACC in this case, and docs, you can specify the actual views, whether it's 3D views, it's level specific, what have you, that you're going to use for coordination and clash detection. All right. Now, again, the benefit there being, typically when we're, let's say in Revit, we know that we want to kick it out to Navisworks. We're usually having to break those up by levels, export them out as our NWCs, and then bring them together as an NWD or NWF for that clash detection, right? In this sense, we're kind of kicking that step. When we publish this data up to docs, and as we're specifying what views or what sheets we want to publish, that's how we're setting up our clash detection and are enabling our teams to perform that filtered clash detection here. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump into some of my clashes in this architectural coordination space. And you'll see here that we can actually clash each one of these views against the other views. Okay, so any other view here. So I can take my arch Revit or my architectural model here, and if I look for maybe just the architectural and the electric stuff, or architectural and plumbing. Now again, I can go ahead and get into the architectural versus the full MEP model. What you'll notice about that is you're going to start out with a few more clashes, right? When you're looking at the overall project, there's going to be a pretty large list of clashes that you may need to look at when you first get in. Now, the nice thing about this, though, I'm going to go ahead and switch these here so I can put my MEP as my primary. What I'm doing by changing that is giving myself the capability to start grouping these elements in my clashes together, either by object, system name, or type name. So if you do use systems, you can go ahead and utilize this system name here to run through maybe my domestic cold water system. Now, as I get in and see what this issue is, okay, we're seeing that essentially, I think it's clashing with the floor. And we can go ahead and drop that down just to make sure. And you're going to see everything that is included within this clash. Okay, so everything that's there. Now, if I know that this is an actual design issue, that's where I can create the issue. The nice thing about this, though, is that if I see a lot of things like this where it's a valid penetration, a valid interface, or it's something that's just been modeled in, they haven't fully modeled the penetration holes for it yet, something like that, I know that I can make it not an issue. And in this case, I could say this is a valid interface. When I say okay, it's going to remove those from the list of clashes that I need to evaluate. Now, kind of going back to some of the other ones here, I'm going to go back to my type name, and I'm going to find one of my, let's see, one of my pieces of mechanical equipment here. All right, so that one looks fine. But what I wanted to kind of call out here is if we find an element that has an issue that is an actual clash, something like this one here, and I notice that this is clashing with my structure, so this is a little bit too high, we need to bring this down. This is where I can create that issue that is going to connect with the design application itself. So I positioned this on the AHU itself. It's going through creating the issue, and then I can go ahead and fill this in and assign it out as needed. Now, this is another interesting kind of point here, but as you saw with the last issue, you can assign these issues to individuals, but you can also assign them to companies. So you do not have to assign it to a specific individual. You can assign it to roles, whether they're BIM managers, modelers, or even companies that you're working with. So I'll go ahead and assign this to Topcon Solutions, Inc. And then I'll specify my due date. I'd like to have this answered by next Wednesday. And let's say the start date is today. Root cause is design coordination. And at this point, notice it's actually going to give us a nice little image, that screenshot or snapshot there of what's going on. And then if I jump back into Revit, if I were to open the mechanical model, just like with here, I would see these issues populate and be able to go ahead and click on them to quickly address these issues that are coming up from those clashes that we're creating within the cloud. All right. Now, those clashes are awesome, right? And I mean, I do want to say that this is really focused on the clash detection workflow with coordination, enabling the coordination and collaboration between your different teams in a controlled space and controlled environment. The other part that I wanted to talk about really for the model coordination piece and how it helps collaboration would actually be through creating views. So I don't know if many of you remember, but the old school BIM 360 glue. We used to be able to take these different models or these different views, mesh them together, and publish these views up to the cloud. Well, essentially, that's the same thing that we can do with model coordination. I'm going to go ahead and grab my architecture as well as my school, and I'm going to go ahead and click View here. So what I'm doing now is just choosing the models that I have within my project and the published data that they have with them to go ahead and create these shared views that I can share with the rest of my team. So we'll see here, I have my school arch, my school MEP, and my structure. In this case, I can go ahead and utilize that properties browser from my viewer. Now this, again, is going to be the same thing that's in Docs in terms of operability. We can pull all of the metadata from these different projects, again, whether it's Civil 3D, it's an IFC, or RDT, what have you. We're going to be able to pull all of that data from it. Now, you'll also notice that we have a model browser. So if we want to turn off some of these different items, we can go ahead and turn those off. Let's say basic roof and get rid of all of our roofs. Okay. We also have the capability to do our section boxes. So if I know that I want to go ahead and see what's going on my first floor, now I would be able to go ahead and create this section box. I could take this up, pull it down, get exactly the information that I need, or I can also go into some of my level data, which are right here, levels, and I would get onto my first floor. And then you'll see that it's just going to cut it at that first floor. If I go to level 10, it's not really doing anything. I can go to bearing, and it should actually take it down further for me. And I'm going to put it back on first floor here. So again, we're creating these different views to enable our project partners and enhance our collaboration process. So once I've gotten finished up, making this view however I need it to, I notice I can also transform these models manually here, so that if you do need that manual alignment, we can utilize that. But I'm going to go ahead and save this view. I'm going to call this coordinated models. And notice here that we can actually set this to be a private or published view. And in saying that, is it a view just for me? So I would go ahead and use this. I can take this out to the field, access it from my phone or tablet or what have you. Or do I want to publish this to the rest of my project so any project members will be able to view it in the coordination space? I'm going to go ahead and publish that and save it out. All right. So at that point, I would say the other portion about enabling kind of collaboration, communication, and coordination here is going to be with that we can also create some of our meetings, right? Now, some may ask, why are meetings included in this process? Well, if we want to enable our communication with our project and its team members, we can essentially control the environment that we are using, or at least give ourselves the ability to track the data that goes on or the communications that go on during these meetings. So in this case, if I know I have a coordination meeting here, I could go ahead and create a new meeting. I could specify the date, time, a location. If I wanted to use something like Teams or Zoom or Skype, I can add the link in right here. I can give a description for my meeting, actually type out different topics for what we're going to have our discussion on, and then give ourselves a meeting summary. Now, what's awesome about this too is the fact that it connects with all of our different invitees or our project members, right? And in this case, if I know that I'm going to add, let's say, Blake, Forrest, Joe, and Kevin, it's going to track them here in terms of who was attended. So I'm going to move this out of the way here. But if I click on Blake, this is essentially clicking on and marking who all attended and who was not attended. This is great for being able to see, of course, who was at the meeting, who communicated what they did or what they said during that meeting. It gives us a great way to, again, enhance the communication between our different project members. And knowing that if someone did miss the meeting, we can go ahead and send it out to them, make sure that if it was recorded that they can catch it afterwards, or someone can help catch them up. And we can also link our references. So this is another portion that I haven't really dove into yet, but these references here give us the capability to reference specific files or sheets and attach them to, in this instance, the meeting. So if we know that we're going to be covering coordination for those 3 different models, I could go ahead, grab each one of those models. So I'll grab my architectural here. I will grab my MEP and my structure. So there they are. Now, when we get into our meetings, everyone in this meeting would have access to those different models, and we can go ahead and go through them as they are, performing the actual coordination meeting itself here. All right, now I did also want to say that those references, those references can be kind of recognized or attached to those different even issues here. So the interesting thing about that is if we create an issue such as coordination or what have you, and we know that there's going to be a RFI, or if there's a change to an asset that is going in, such as a different type of AHU that we need different specs and cut sheets for, things like that, we can actually start addressing that as soon as we see this issue come across and start communicating that data back and forth. Okay, so again, we do have photos, files, RFIs, and assets. All right, well, I think that about does it for my BIM Collaborate Pro demonstration here. So what we went through today was connecting our teams with connected workflows and therefore enabling our connected data, or essentially controlling that data stream. Do we have any questions?
And if you do have questions, just as a friendly reminder, please feel free to insert those into the questions pane located on your GoToWebinar control panel. Okay, David, it appears we have no questions at this time.
All right, well, with no questions, I just want to thank everyone for their time. Again, thank you for joining us for this. If you have any other questions that maybe you're not thinking of right now, feel free to reach out to us at www.topconsolutions.com, or I have our number here. Of course, this webinar will be recorded. You will see this on our YouTube channel, as well as that you're invited in that webinars on demand page that we showed at first. So thank you again, everyone, for joining, and I look forward to our future presentations.